Approval of the minutes, we just got them today, they look great. Thank you for doing those, you see them? Take a motion, please.
Motion to,
Go on.
motion to approve the minutes of September 14th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have anything, Karen, you want to announce besides our items on the agenda?
Not anything to announce, but just a heads up, that, we'll be, starting to put, forward, some more of the transfers and things like that, so you're gonna wanna keep your regularly scheduled finance subcommittee meetings.
Put them all in my committee,
Yep.
every other week,
Yep.
well, every Wednesday I'm at something, council
Just so
meeting.
you know that your schedule isn't gonna change for a bit.
Okay, so first item is approving MGL Chapter 60, that's for tax title collection. The new, a new account seems straightforward. Is this something like you're initiating, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, it came into place a few years ago, 2014 it looks like, but it just, you know how last year when we asked for money to collect on tax title and we said, we did an additional appropriation and then we said, well, if we get the taxpayer to pay that off, they'll pay these legal fees later, it'll go to the general fund. This allows those monies to go into a revolving account so that we can pay future recording and legal costs from that account.
So the money you collect from tax title goes into this account so you can use it when you need to pay for tax title, legal, and other expenses.
Right, it could be, well, remember like with the incident Melissa was talking about last year when we did a transfer for attorney fees. So we would leave it in this account and instead of paying and we've been paying the attorney's fees out of your line item and
This is more transparent accounting.
This is great, and then when the money came in, it doesn't go into her line item, it goes into the general fund. So this way, there'll be a revolving account specifically for that. So right away, we can clear it out by paying the attorney's fees out of it, but then we can keep the money in there so that when we need to do advertising, legal fees, that type of thing, we can use that instead of our regular department budgets for that.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Depending on timing, we may not always have enough. We probably still need some appropriation because the money comes in after.
But you would transfer it into the account so that.
You can't transfer money into the account. If I collect legal fees from
It goes into that.
it would go into
Right.
that account.
So if you have to spend money from a different account to pay for it, that's how it goes.
Right.
It's like what you're doing now.
Right.
It's almost like we have to pay, now we're been paying first. So we might have to just continue to pay first because of things that we're doing now, but then when the money comes in, if you approve this chapter and section, then we will put it in there, then we will have it to use for the future. The attorney's fees will come right out of it and be paid to the attorneys, but we will have it for the future to draw out of it for the ads and things like that.
And you can't fund it as a budget line
We
item.
are funding it as a budget.
Now we are, because that, remember when we went for the transfer last fiscal year?
I have a budget line for it every year.
Because we were short.
Oh, okay, I see.
But even though that ultimately those costs are passed on to the taxpayer, that currently goes into the general fund, and so then you have to keep coming and asking for more, so.
Okay, good. Any questions, guys? Sounds good to me. I have a motion to accept chapter 60, 15B.
Make a motion to accept Mass General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 15B.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So-
Next item is a bonding item, which, just so the councilors are aware, we are in CPA right now about to approve what I believe, and I don't remember, I didn't look at it.
Yes, you did.
The reminder, well, we're gonna approve it, I don't think
You did, it's going to the council on your
We did approve
Wednesday's
it.
agenda.
Right,
That's
you'll
a transfer that I put forward already.
Yeah, you're gonna see this coming, guys. It's the amount of money that covers the rest of the, because it's 322 from the grant. But apparently, in order to do this, Melissa, we need to bond first in order to be able to pay it until we get the grant.
You need to do that resolution
whatever it
Okay, so
says.
what we put forward,
Mhm.
actually, in hindsight, this should have, it's a package that all should be together. You have the resolution, and then you have the bonding request, and we should have waited, for when the CPA, for when I put forth the CPA, transfer. So all three pieces go together, and, so what the bonding says is that you have the 460,000, which makes up, and then you have the 322, from, you know, the CPA funds to make up the total amount, but the CPA part, you're getting it Wednesday. So, you know, in hindsight, I should have just held off on these two pieces and put
Did I
it.
schedule a public hearing? I don't remember if I did.
No, you sent both of these, the resolution and the bonding, to Finance Subcommittee. This is the first part
I
of it.
know, but what I'm saying is if I
Mhm.
didn't schedule a public hearing for
You
this
didn't.
weekend, I'll schedule a public hearing for the CPA and this together.
Okay,
So that they will come before the council together.
that'd be great.
If I did schedule a public hearing, and I don't think I did.
You didn't.
All right.
you
then
didn't.
We're okay, but if I did, I will continue it so that
Right.
we can talk about it at the same time.
Right, and it's all one package. It should have been together, and,
No big deal.
you know, they wanted to get this going, you know, for the, you know, so that, for the grant.
I think
To
there's,
have everything in place, so.
End of
What's
year.
the CPA amount, 138?
I forget, it's whatever's left.
Or, yeah, 138? Is it the difference between 460 and
Yes.
322? Okay.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure.
here, I can tell you what it is, 138 exactly. So that's in your packet.
For next week.
Exactly, for your Wednesday council meeting,
Yep.
and, you know, for you to forward it back to Finance
Yeah, we'll
Subcommittee.
talk about
But like
it.
I said, it should have probably all been
Been
together, because the resolution is one piece. The resolution was the grant requirement, and we put forth the bonding, because normally they want to see that that's in place, and obviously the CPA is the other part of it.
And this grant is at reimbursement?
Yep.
So that you have to spend the money out of the bond so that you could do the work and they get reimbursed.
Well,
Is
we
that
don't
correct?
usually bond, it just has to show that, they usually just want to know that the money's in place.
So
So
you
we
may
we
not
would- we
actually
can-
borrow.
We can go in a deficit, and then for grants, we can go in a deficit and then get the money in. That's normally how we do it, but once in a while, like this park grant, they'll request that you have an appropriation, but we don't do anything with the appropriation. And,
So I thought, so you don't actually borrow.
no,
So there's no interest
no.
incurred, so we don't spend extra money on
No,
it.
and just to let you know, if for any reason, you know, the understanding is if for any reason we do not get the grant, we will not be, you know, funding this ourselves.
Okay.
And it's,
Okay?
and it's the
It's
same
kind of
thing the
important to
CPA
know.
was told, if the grant doesn't
Exactly.
happen, CPA money will
The-
not be used.
Right, the funds will go right back to CPA.
And
We'll
it's,
just resend them.
just so you guys know, you'll see it next week, there's a beautiful design. They're redesigning the park, they're making it more accessible, ADA accessible, they're redoing the old stone bathroom. And CPA, there was some talk in the CPA, is it cheaper to build a new bathroom, and no, it isn't, so. It is pretty nice, and we talked about future accessibility for the bike path, if we could ever get, you know, things like that, so.
Is that the entrance that?
It's the exit, you know, when you
Yeah.
leave the park, that stone
Where the
building on
stone-
your
yeah.
right,
Mhm.
that's
That's a
the
beautiful
bathroom.
building.
It really is kinda neat.
Yeah, it's
It-
gonna be renovated so it can be
Used.
better used. Also, the front park entrance will be much better traffic-wise. You
Are they
ca-
moving the thing
They're mo-
further in?
Everything is being redesigned there, and I think
Everything's
the traffic flow will be much better. It's better for the neighbors.
Question. So the money, so the amount requested is whatever it is, but the purpose is for the addition of ADA accessible playground features at Daly Field. Is that the field if you're exiting to your
Mhm,
right?
The top.
Is that?
Yes,
Top.
yes, Daly Field, well, Daly Field is the very top. When you enter the park, you don't go down?
Yes.
Yes,
Stand
exactly. what you-
across from the Parks and
Tennis.
Rec buildings.
Exactly.
and
The tennis courts.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, and bathroom. Do we have a breakdown of what the ADA accessible costs are and the renovation of the stone
You'll see all that
buildings?
with
On
the
the CPA request.
Which is next week.
Right.
Exactly, and again, John was anxious to get this going, the resolution, and, you know, just anxious to have everything in place for the grant.
Okay.
But,
And this really, as far as I'm concerned, is a formality, because we're not
Yes.
really gonna bond.
no,
We're gonna deficit spend until we get the grant money back.
that's right.
But the state wants to make sure before they give you a grant that you have the money in place to fund it.
So how do we show that? Do we just show that, are you moving it to a fund and then move it back, or it's just,
It's just you're approving that if
You
we
could cover
wanted to,
this.
if we wanted to borrow that, you're approving, you're giving approval to let the treasurer borrow the money. But we're not going to borrow the money, but it just shows that the money's in place. So there's been a discussion, I'm just gonna throw it out there right now, going back and forth. And it's getting a little confusing because the person, for the grants, through the park grants, her name is Melissa Cryon. So I don't wanna be saying Melissa because right away we're gonna think of, you know, our Melissa. So Melissa Cryon is the, you know, the one that John works with. And you'll remember this whole bonding thing too with the boardwalk, remember that? Because that was a park grant. And
Spray park.
you know, and Melissa Zawatsky has been trying to tell Melissa Cryon that, you know, we are able to go into deficits because, you know, we have enough of a cash flow, so, you know, obviously, you know, you're gonna get the grant funds in, so we don't go and borrow the money, but they have requested in the past that we have it in place. That's why you see these borrowing requests. Well, there's also language that normally goes with that, which Barb advertises when she does the,
Public hearing.
thank you. So she said she doesn't need the language, so we've been going back and forth just to make sure that what she thinks she needs, she doesn't, and then what she wants.
Which she we talking about?
Yes,
Melissa
Cryon.
Cryon.
I'm just gonna start using the last
Cryon,
name,
yeah.
Cryon. So, you know, John has been working with her, and I had you know, going back and forth in emails and phone calls, and she says she doesn't need this borrowing request. She doesn't need.
I thought it was a DOR requirement.
No, this is the park grants.
Just the park people?
Park grants,
But the park grants are coming from the state.
yes.
So a
So,
lot of grants come from the state.
if you
They
see.
have their own rules.
Exactly, well, like
That's what I mean.
MassWorks. So like MassWorks,
But
we
what I don't
obviously
understand is the-
don't spend that, you know?
The state park people that are giving us this grant are the ones requiring that we have bonding in place?
No.
It's-
That's where the discrepancy is.
Oh, that's where I misunderstand.
She's saying, normally they have in the past and they need that language, and she's saying all she needs in place is that resolution.
no?
And.
So in the future, you may not be doing bonding?
Well, read the resolution.
We disagree with her. Read the very last sentence of the resolution. Or the very last paragraph, the very last whereas.
Therefore be it.
Oh,
Yeah, so that says, doesn't that not say the appropriation is in place?
that you
Allocation.
have an
Yeah,
allocation.
well,
of
where's the
funds.
allocation? So
And
we're
she keeps saying, well, I don't care how you do it. I said,
Right.
but you're requiring me to do it. Well, all I need is that resolution.
Yeah.
But what is that
It's-
resolution
Right.
requires a proceeding action? Well, I don't know, I don't do that.
Right, but we do, and we do know, so you might be, you know, we will, if it's needed, and the whole thing is, we're not gonna bond to begin with, but if it's needed, we'll get you that language, you know, for the vote. And you know what I'm talking about, it was always an additional page, and it was like this long, and it was always, and she's saying we don't need it, and John's saying we don't need it, and Melissa and I tend to disagree.
You think you do need
Yes.
what exactly? I'm a little confused.
The language that would go with the whenever you see the borrowing bonding request,
Right.
the language that goes with that in the vote, it's actually your vote. Like,
Okay, but we definitely need to have bonding in place or not? I don't think Melissa's saying we do.
I think she doesn't know what she's talking about.
she doesn't know what she's talking about because she's not a finance person. So we just want to get ahead of whether she knows what she's talking about. We want to get ahead of it. That's
So
why
you can
I
read
put the
that vote if you
borrowing.
want and say that you have an allocation in
Right.
place.
Right.
But if we say there's an allocation in place, it's
Right.
not true yet.
Well, is it? I
Is
mean, we
it?
have an allocation of grant funds.
Right,
I mean, it's the interpretation of the
Right.
allocation.
right. So we're
But-
thrilled to not do a bonding request, but in the middle of all this, I said, I'm just gonna put it forward so that I have everything in place in case we need it.
The only reason that I think in the future we should do something like this is if the state, whoever's giving us the grant, requires some proof that the city is ready to fund this. And if this is the way you guys think is the best way to do it, then we do it. I don't understand why, I know
We-
it's a park grant, but it still all goes through the city. It's the city's financial officer, Melissa Zawadzki, should be saying, this is how you should do this, period, end of discussion.
Well,
I
that's what
argued
we
with her
have
2 years
said.
ago,
We-
Dan, and I talked in circles with this woman, and she made me do the borrowing last time, and now she doesn't seem clear on the facts.
Right.
It's the same person.
Right.
But what,
So we're frustrated on our end, so we are kind of overdoing, so we're putting it forward
So you
anyway.
can write,
I will
there's an
do
allocation
whatever
of-
you guys.
There's an allocation of grant funds, but what I'm saying is, what happened last time is at the 11th hour, we came back and did a borrowing, if you remember.
Mhm.
Because then all of a sudden it wasn't enough. She said to me today, that resolution is fine.
So she's saying that's all we need is a resolution.
But we're prepared to do the resolution, or what you're requesting is to do the resolution and the borrowing.
Well, we're just trying to, we're like actually doing extra because she's saying
Cover
all
those-
you need is a
so this is to
resolution.
cover those bases in
and-
case it can.
And she goes,
Exactly.
and how you appropriate the funds is up to you.
And in regards
As
to.
it should be, you're the one in charge.
Right, but she's saying I need an appropriation.
What I don't understand, and this is
Exactly.
all interdepartment politics, but I'm sorry, Melissa Zawadzki is the chief financial officer.
Not if she's the awarding authority.
All right, well, that's the part I don't understand. What's an
Melissa
awarding-
Cryan is the awarding authority of the grant.
So they won't release the
There are specifications
funds.
required to
Right.
get
Does she
the
work for
money.
the city? Did I
She
miss
works for
that?
the state.
Oh, God, all right.
From whence we are
I'm
getting the money.
totally confused. Okay,
Right.
she works for the state.
Right.
I thought she worked for the John at Parks and Rec and
No,
was writing grants.
no.
Like we have somebody writing
No,
grants. All right, that
no,
totally
no.
cleared up now.
No.
Okay, so
No.
whatever you feel we need to do, if she
That's
doesn't know what
why I have put forth a bonding request, just
So,
to cover ourselves.
for our sake in doing this correctly,
Mhm.
I need to read not only a resolution, but also approve a bonding and borrowing request. 2 motions. Am I correct?
That's what we did last time.
That's what we
So
know
when
has
this
been
goes
required
be-
in the past.
When this goes before public hearing,
Mhm.
we're gonna read about a bonding request and we're gonna read a resolution.
That's right.
2 different objects, both have to be passed separately. Correct?
Yeah.
That's what I think. Is it?
Mhm.
All right.
Same thing
Do we
that your
understand that,
CPA
guys?
request will be.
The
So-
CPA is the 3rd thing we have to approve, because that's a separate
Exactly.
appropriation.
Right, right.
But it's all for the same.
It's all the same
So
package.
this is just
A cover.
red tape.
Right.
Thank you.
It's not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
No, it's not
It's
gonna
just,
happen.
And
It's
it's,
so
just-
that we can rubber stamp that we've got,
So
to
that
avoid
you-
delays.
Okay,
Exactly.
our opinion.
Good peg.
Our opinion, okay, after going back and forth, and again, John has spent so much time with Cryon, and, you know, in her emails going back and forth, are answering a question, he's asking a question and she's giving an answer that's not related. So our impression is Cryon is saying, all you need is that resolution.
Yeah.
And we're saying, no. So we're saying, in order to approve that resolution, you need the appropriation request, which is the bonding request, to go with it. So she's saying that's all we need, we're saying, yeah, no. And I don't want, that's great, she's saying this, you're saying that, and that's all we do, and then all of a sudden it's December, we're waiting
Somebody
for our
who's our
grant
boss
funds.
says, wait a minute, they
And
didn't
she
bond.
says,
They didn't
where's-
bond it.
Where's
and
my,
you know,
you know, where's?
Light dawns
where's
over
the vote?
Marblehead now. I thought Cryon didn't work for us.
No,
Which is
sorry,
why I was
John.
wondering why
Because of the word
she wasn't
park.
listening to finance.
You know, because of the word park.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That makes it more
That's what
sensible.
threw you off, was the park
state,
word.
well, the state, through
Yes.
this woman, is requiring a
Right.
resolution.
Right.
You want to require the bonding as well, just to cover your bases. And there's no extra work involved for Melissa once this is done, unless she chooses to bond, then
She's
she has
not
to
gonna
go through
choose
all
to
that,
bond.
which she won't do.
No, I don't want to bond.
Well,
matter
no,
what.
neither of you do, but the only reason, there would be no reason, because if they don't approve the grant, we don't do the
That's-
project.
That's right, that's right.
And we remove the bonding
Well, what we've
authority?
been trying to convince her forever is we do a lot of grants here, and we don't bond for every darn grant, because what we do is we pay them and then we get reimbursed. We put the
Mhm.
money out, which
'Cause you
means
have
we're in a
enough cash
deficit,
flow to
because we
cover
have
it.
the cash flow to cover it,
Mhm.
and then the money comes in as a reimbursement. And she's saying she needs an appropriation in place. Hence, and this only happens with the park grants, and it's a PARC. That was the word that was throwing you off. It's not PARK, it's
Got
PARC.
it, PARC, Mass PARC grant.
Okay?
Well, do you guys have any more discussion? I'm ready to do this.
Sorry about the confusion, but I just
No,
figured
I understand.
I just wanted to tell you that we're trying to be.
I just didn't know who this woman Melissa was. And I didn't
the
understand
same
why she wasn't listening to the finance director, who seems to be in charge in the city, because I thought she was working for the city.
No,
That's where my confusion was totally, so, okay.
no.
It's not
And-
an department
And the
at
other
all.
piece, though, is, when we do the bonding and we schedule a public hearing, we have to advertise.
And it's money.
So I don't want to advertise if we don't have to. But what we're afraid of is that we don't do this and say, oh, okay, great, this is great, Cryon, we're all set, we've got our resolution, we're all in place, and then it's December, and she needs a copy of the vote and says, well, where's the vote about your appropriation?
And then
Okay.
and then we have to wait.
And then we have to start, then we have to do a bonding request and, go to you, to
And-
finance, to back for a public hearing.
And there's a
And I
deadline.
don't
If
like
if that
doing
happened,
things-
you wouldn't get the grant this year.
I don't like doing things at the last minute.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, I kind of sometimes do them a little too far ahead of time.
I think
but-
it's better to cover our bases, and it is some money
Okay.
spent for the advertising, but that's the way it goes.
All right.
Anything else, Dan, Jake?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? So a motion can be for both. I will do two motions at this, but for this sake is motion to approve borrowing of $460,000 and a motion to approve the resolution. So somebody make that resolution. That's-
Motion to request borrowing for purpose of paying for an addition of ADA accessible playground features at Daly Field Playground, renovation of stone building bathrooms, redesign and reconstruction of Nonotuck Park entrance of $460,000 to be funded by borrowing.
Okay, we'll do two motions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, second motion is to approve the resolution, PARC, I'm not gonna say park anymore, PARC Daily Field Development Project Resolution.
Make a motion that we approve the resolution.
Okay? Say second.
Second.
Sorry, it's just the way we have to do it. And all in favor?
Aye.
So, I'm gonna make these public hearings for the next meeting, which is the first meeting in October. No, the next meeting is the first meeting in October. The second meeting in October, these will all be passed at the same time.
Perfect.
This and the CPA. So it's all done. Because the CPA is coming to us and we just, next meeting, that's where I'll request John be here
Right,
and
he
show you
asked,
everything.
And I
okay?
told him we would.
No, we don't need them now. You guys need to see the design, and that's all part of the CPA funding. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, no.
Thank you, sorry for the confusion, but I just wanted you to
No,
have the
it's better.
background information on it. Even though someone says we don't need something, we're used to them coming to get it at the last hour, and then it's like, really? It doesn't matter what they said previously.
Bureaucracy
Turn this off.
breeds
Better
bureaucracy.
safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.